personnel, and maintain a balanced budget. So that's where we currently are with our class sizes.
And these numbers from the elementary school for the last over 10-year period, when is that actual in the building or the makeup of even at the 4K sites? Or is it just in our building?
You're looking at the moment they're talking about, I would add those, I don't know.
It's over a 10-year period.
Elementary, middle, and high school. The January count, which you.
Yeah, because when I look at the January count, I don't differentiate between if they're at St. Paul's or that's.
So they're all.
Yeah, because that's the way DPI counts them.
Okay.
But I can tell you guys easily, because I pay the bill, you know, it's like 88 kids that are at 4K, I want to say off the top of my head. And I can tell you how many are at each site. If you want to see.
Yep.
Each quarter I do count that those kids.
So that's just an update.
Okay, Ann, and then I have just some questions, because I'm the lucky, the chosen one to kind of, I guess I got picked to be, what the main concern from, you can see from the amount of parents here, and I believe there's some first grade teachers here also that, I guess they came to me kind of to support and kind of give answers. I've talked to you, I know they're very, satisfied with as far as, you know, moving the desks out, giving the teachers some more room in their room. But it looks to me, and what I've heard from the parents, is they're still concerned about the teacher to student ratio. We all got the same letter from Deidre, and if you do any research or know anything, and I'm guilty of this because you did bring it back to us in March, and I was on the personnel committee, and of course I see nothing wrong with the ratio at that time. But what they're looking at, and like from some even the homeroom moms, is that the classes have special children with special needs or assistance or whatever. So when you get that many in a small confined room, there just isn't that one-to-one or even being able to kind of contain it. So that was one of the questions they were bringing forward. And I myself have a question is, and this is true since I've been on the board and it's been a few years, when we have an overabundance of kids like we did in K-4, we opened up a special, we had to add a class for them. Now this is the same class, and a lot of the questions are, why aren't we following that up with a teacher?
No, what happened in 4K, Kelly, is that,
Pre-K.
yeah, pre-K, nobody would take those kids. The centers were full, and they were full, and because of that, we by law have to offer a class. So we had to open a section because we have 12 kids that required an education. And I can't say, sorry, go away.
Right.
By law, we have to provide that for them. So that's how we opened a section.
Right.
And since then, we have kept that open because of the strong parent requests that we've had. So that's why we have kept that open. So right now, the teachers have 22. Each teacher will have an additional child in the class, one more child in their class. And if you are a student with special needs, you may see, I mean, in a classroom the other day, I saw 4 adults in that classroom. The other thing we can do is we can look at, relocating 2 of the classes over to the kindergarten wing. And that could happen for square footage. But the teachers don't want to do that. So again, I'd like to go back to the teachers.
Right.
And solve it with them and work with them on what else could we do to address their concerns.
That would be
Yeah.
great, because
Yeah.
you can see by the more parents you have,
Yeah.
there's a deep concern.
Yeah.
And the other concern is that's an enrollment now, and I know it's sometimes they move out, but sometimes they move in also.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do not want to get up to class sizes of 25. We
No.
don't want to do that. I
No.
would come back to the board.
Okay.
If that was happening and we were starting to see a sharp increase during our summer enrollment, I would be back here. And I've done that before. We've come back in August.
And
Remember?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
we've
I've
done
also
that.
been asked, and I don't know if any on the board would like to go in and spend a little time in the classrooms of the first grade teachers and see what's
I
going
know
on.
that our teachers welcome people
Mhm.
coming into the classroom, so if you would like to come in, I would just say give those, teachers a heads up
Yeah, cause
and,
I'll
and
be
talk with
going
them.
in, so if
Yeah.
anybody else wants to go
Yeah.
in or whatever, just.
And when you
Let's
take a
do it.
look at that, some kids move in and some kids move out, so, Mrs. Carlson she started with 22, she might have 21, she might have 23. So those were our August class sizes, so when you look at 23, and then, again, I'll put that back with that team and we'll sit down and work on a solution for them, with them.
Yeah, the
So,
parents,
it's-
I'm sorry.
That's okay, if something were to change, do you have another area in their same section to put another?
Right, so, well, we moved a special ed classroom out there, so
Okay.
I guess I would sit down with them and say, what would you like to do? Just kinda like we did with this, what would you like to do?
Okay.
So.
Well, just so you don't have one section, if we get more kids and you move another
We
first grade class and,
We might,
yeah.
and you don't have a place.
This kind of discussion here, I do have an item here that I'd like to see for future, potentially.
Sure.
I'd like to see a proposed cap put honestly in our strategic planning sessions and being presented to the board accordingly.
Okay,
I see that as a piece of the puzzle that's important for educational experiences here, and the data that I did from research supports that.
okay. Thank you.
Okay. Being that this was a discussion, is there any other questions of the board right now? Right, we will move on to new business. 8A, discussion, update on the compensation committee meeting Q4.
So as part of our compensation committee, we meet quarterly, 4 times a year. And this meeting was a little bit close to the last one just because of the snow day that we had. But what we do is we take a look at, as part of our goal and our mission of this, yes.
I was gonna say, if
absolutely.
anybody doesn't wanna stay for the rest of this very informational and fun
Right.
meeting, if you wanna take a break and leave, I know a lot of you came for that part of it, you're welcome to do so. I tried to sneak out. Thank you for coming.
I said, can you open the window?
I don't know if those,
Don't worry.
You can open them, I would
he gets his hand seconded.
all of them going I asked him.
One of the requirements of our compensation model is we always want to take a look at what our goal was for
Budget.
professional growth, so how much professional growth is occurring, and we share that with the board. We take a look at our PD points and how can we improve on that, and we took a look at that professional learning. And Julie and Brady developed a presentation, a little bit better flow of how people earn those professional development points and get their certificate better, so we've improved that process. We took a look at what our teachers were learning last year and what they're learning this year, and we talked about that. One of the things that we like to do is to take a look at what the movement was, and if people didn't move, what happened and why. Part of our structure, so Jess, this goes to that compensation model, is we created leaders, team leaders, instructional coaches, and mentors when we developed this model 4 years ago. And so we always do gathering of data about how are those working and what feedback do we receive. So those surveys were all done this school year, and then that survey information goes back to those groups. They work through that, chew through that, and develop goals for next school year. So we're always monitoring and evaluating and whether or not those are effective roles for us to have. We reviewed our Appendix G compensation, and there was a request for figure skating not to be added as a cost, but just to be recognized as a club. We agreed with that. Any other Appendix G request form, this group did develop a form that staff fill out now, and so we reviewed that. We took a look at our membership committee for next school year and said, is this a good membership? Our biggest goal with our compensation is to have representation not only from the schools, but from every level of the compensation. Because then you hear the voice from those below and you hear the voice from those above. And then we set our agenda, our meeting times for next school year. that's just an update on the compensation. Any questions?
The only question I have, and I'm just looking at the time, is there a reason why we would meet during the school day and not after? I mean, is that something that maybe more people would wanna come from as far as the staff wise, if they can't participate, if they're,
Well, so they're representatives, so Paul was a representative, so Donna is usually here, she's a representative. We set it based upon that committee sets the times. Like, we agree, we're gonna have morning times, afternoon times, that's what they agree with. And that's just a volunteer committee, so they're not paid to be on that committee, they don't get points for being on that committee, they're just giving their time for that committee. And really, it's just kind of according to that committee, what works for that committee, that's how
so
we
in other words,
set the times.
when they're not in this classroom, are they getting a sub and then they come back later, or we?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, literally, Paul, depending upon what's going on in his classroom, might sneak out, his fourth hour, they got something going on. But yes, so we get them a sub and then they go right back.
Any other questions? Okay, we will move on to item B, discussion and possible decision, approval of the elementary, middle, and high school handbooks for the 2018-19 school year.
Make a motion to approve changes as presented to the board packet.
Okay, we have a motion by Corey
Second.
Condon and a second by Mike Kaiser to approve the changes as shown in your board packet. Are there any other questions or discussion at this time?
Just the pre-expulsion's the big item.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, for the high school handbook, what should have been on the changes is that there's also been an increase in the athletic fees, is that correct? From the previous board?
Well, it doesn't show it on here, it just shows page 12
It's just
updated fees.
updated fee list as approved by the board. Yeah, so if we, I think Scott just did that for space, those were approved at the last board meeting, so that list will be put in there as approved.
Okay. That, for me, I personally cannot approve, I just, after looking at the data that Corey had asked for earlier with the athletic fees and the compensation, how, if there's going to be mentor coaches, that are also getting paid, I think it would be better distributed if all students in those extracurricular activities would pay toward that versus all the athletic programs getting an increase. And calling around to other school districts, Tomahawk only pays $20 and Stratford doesn't pay any. So why we went up to 40, I'm not sure why, but I cannot personally support that for the high school level.
Okay. Is there any other discussion?
Is it 40 for each sport?
No.
Is it, yeah, it is, isn't it?
There's a cap.
There's a cap on it.
We don't think have it?
Yeah,
I think it's
got the
under.
fee list up, it was approved at
Yeah,
the last board meeting.
What's that, 140?
120, I want to say.
I think it has close to 100.
That's a lot to put on parents when you have multiple children, multiple sports. And then on top of it, you're also doing an awful lot of fundraising for each of the sports as well. So you're wanting to increase participation.
While I respect your opinion, it's not a bad change at this point because it's been approved by a
Well,
different
I
board,
don't
so.
have to approve the handbook, which is just what I stated.
Okay.
Yeah. And with the unexcused tardy, students who are more than 10 minutes tardy to class, how long has this been? This is just something new that we're doing and I don't quite understand, so.
What grade level are you talking about?
At high school, sorry.
Okay.
We
So
talked to
we
Nate
try to
about
have a-
that, yes.
So it's black and white. We want, the staff is wondering, when is a kid considered tardy
Or,
and when are they considered absent for that hour?
right.
So at 10 minutes, they need to be there by that time, and if not, then they're considered absent for that hour.
Unless they have an excuse, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
Just like all of our students, if they have an excused absence, if they go to a doctor and they bring the excused absence form, it doesn't count as anything.
but now, with this, now I lost it, I forgot my question I was gonna ask you. I'm sorry, Nate, it just went away.
Okay, is there any other questions? Okay, we do have a motion and we do have a second to approve. Hearing no other questions, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Hi.
Aye. Okay, we will move on. Discussion and possible decision, the grant summary for the 17-18 school year.
So Kevin had a really good idea, and this was actually kind of enlightening to do, so I appreciate you sharing that. Was to just, he really just wanted to know, what are the grants we've applied for, what have we gotten? And let's have a summary of that. And I'm glad that you asked for that. So this is what we have so far. Any questions on the different grants that we have and that we received?
You know, I did get a chance to take a good look at this. Looks like the data here has 32 grants and 3 focused on energy grants in addition to, and then it also does have 15 donations listed in your spreadsheet. At least that's what I could decipher from the information that was provided. I think that the authors, quite honestly, if my understanding it correctly, have taken the initiative within the district to apply for the grants. Is that a correct assessment?
Pretty much, or somebody from the community, or one of you will say to us, hey, here's a great grant, and then we as a team sit down and say, who wants to run with this?
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
So somehow, I think an appreciation letter or some type of acknowledgement to those people for taking the extra, quite honestly, to step up and to take the initiative to offer the grant and seek it out. I think that would be a great positive gesture from the board. Quite honestly, I think it'd be authored and approved by the superintendent and president. That's the first thing. The second thing would be is how can we capitalize on more of these opportunities? What I'm hearing is that you are aware of it because you hear of it.
well, we seek, so I go to a monthly superintendent meeting, and that's one of the things that are always brought to our attention as a group. So we as a group of, 18 superintendents always talk about different grants that you're applying for in your school district. Generally, we receive a number of those via email or information, but we're also, when we think of a project that we want to achieve, we also go out and look at that.
Okay, so you're collaborating with other superintendents to
Yes.
identify this.
Yes.
So you facilitate this, and that's been your responsibility for the most part? Okay.
I would say that all of our CESA meetings, whether Brent goes to business meetings, Julie goes to the curriculum and standards, we all meet with different districts. We all meet with that same group, different groups, and it really gives us great information. So Brent will come back and say, gosh, I heard about this grant, is anybody, and then we meet as a team every single week, and we talk about different things that we're applying for.
I think CISA has a grant writer.
They do if we need some additional help, so like on the safety grant, they're gonna offer a half a day of, this is some helpful hints as you're filling this grant out.
Some of our grants, CISA acts as the fiscal agent on them, so a lot of my grants run through CISA, so they are the one we submit our paperwork to. They are the ones that submit it to the state then. So CISA certainly plays a very large role in the grant process for the district as well.
From an action item, I guess what I would like to see is this information communicated in summary form, so the public's aware that we are seeking and achieving and engaged in the grant process. I think it's a very important piece of the puzzle for the community to understand.
Motion?
This is my buddy that teaches at
Well, it is a decision item.
I make a motion that we publish a summary of our grants
By a teacher.
and the grant information for the 2017-2018 school year for publication.
So we have a motion by Kevin, is there a second? And a second by Amy. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Were you able to catch all?
I did.
Okay, thank you. Item D, discussion and possible decision, roles and responsibilities of new board members on committees.
Go back to Kevin, and some of you that came on the board the very first time had a good suggestion that when we have new board members come on, understanding the roles and responsibility of the committee that you're on with all your other responsibilities as well as a new board member is sometimes overwhelming and daunting. When we went through our policies, we changed and we now have a policy on new board member orientation. But tonight, for example, our new committee, Kevin took the time during our committee meeting and to just say, you know, mission, vision, values, what policies guide the work that we do. And we're gonna take some time next board meeting in our committee and talk about that, our roles and responsibilities on the personnel committee. So this was brought, I think I'll just turn the floor over to you, Kevin, if you have other thoughts.
Yeah, just, you know, the seats on the bus have changed here a little bit. And it's important that, you know, people have an appreciation for how they can engage, when they can engage, and get us where we need to go as a group. That was the intent, one of the intents. The other one was, quite honestly, is maybe to discuss a little bit about the standing committees and their scope. That was the other item to bring to the table. I would like to discuss the finance committee. I think the finance committee should have a scope to include budget planning. And if we have a finance and budget planning group that can align to our strategic plan, that would be a positive step forward, quite honestly, for an organization. That's one proposal. The second proposal would be curriculum and standards committee meeting. There is a significant amount of changes to the curriculum and standards that happen that are not engaged with the committee. And we don't know exactly as a committee when they should and when they shouldn't be. We have a hard time identifying that. I think that clarity would be very important to us. And with the current trend of what is brought to the committee, we could probably meet every quarter. You know, it depends on what the scope of what comes to that committee and our scope to be engaged with it. So there's some items here that I feel that, quite honestly, we can engage in. Another one that I wanted to bring to the table here is the compensation committee. You have faculty and you have administration. You have no representation from the school board. Now, high-functioning school board, a high-functioning board system in general, has a collaborative effort between the faculty, the staff, and the administration, as well as our engagement as well. So there's some thoughts there.
Matt and Carolyn used to be on our compensation committee, yeah, and then we just open it and invite it, and honestly, no board member is willing to come to it. Which is why we then have it as a standing agenda item that comes forward to the board so that you stay informed. So Carolyn came to a few of the meetings, Matt came to a few of the meetings, and then just asked that we move that to a board agenda item and bring that forward to you every single quarter. That's how you're not, but the development of the employee compensation occurred over an entire year with them attending all of those meetings. There were a dozen or so meetings. So the board was very actively involved in developing that model, very actively involved. Bob Butler facilitated those. Well, there were a number of meetings, and Bob Butler facilitated those meetings, and Matt came to a number of those meetings, and Carolyn did.
As a member, I'm going to respect the history that you guys put together with that. However, it's an outside committee, and quite honestly, that insight discussion as a member of the personnel committee would be beneficial for my input and suggestions for any personnel committee changes or engagements. So I guess I would like to make a proposal then, make a motion to change the title of the finance committee to finance and budgeting planning committee. I'd like to do separate motions, I guess. And to include the budget planning process.
So you're making that in the form of a motion, or can I just interject?
Yes, absolutely.
Would you prefer that, like, are you guys are setting up next month, to meet with the personnel to discuss this? Would you like each of the committees to discuss this?
Oh, that would be probably even the better path.
Do you know what I mean? And then make that one motion to put this on the agenda of each one of the committees? For next
that would be great, Pat.
Okay, so now, you have a motion.
Well, you make that motion.
So I have to, how do I phrase that? I'd like to make a motion to review the committee title and scope with the individual committees as they're stated currently, and approve and or change as appropriate. That gives them the flexibility to identify what they need and want to do as part of the committee. That makes sense?
Yep,
That's my motion.
okay.
Is there gonna be, what will be discussion?
Yeah, you'll have the opportunity to cultivate what that committee looks like, what the title is, what the scope, and where you start from.
So then, yeah, if you have any questions or whatever, or thinking about it next.
Right, action? Okay, so we have a motion by Kevin, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, and we have a second by Jess Maples. Any questions?
So are you proposing that we change the title and the scope of that committee? So, for example, financing and then budgeting, are we not going to have a budgeting planning meeting as a full board?
You have the right to identify what this procedure will say and what the scope is. There is no budgeting process listed in policy 155A. So my assumption based off of that, you're not engaging the budgetary process and planning with the finance committee. That's what it's,
But we have a budgetary meeting every year.
that's
Of the whole board.
that's after the budget's put together, yes. You're engaged
So
in the
what are you-
planning process.
What are you proposing, what do you want to see done by that, Kevin? I guess I'm just trying to figure out.
The best approach would be is you have a strategic plan that is aligned with your budget. Can anybody on the board currently identify if we have a budget aligned with the strategic plan?
I believe we do, because we have discussion all the time about it, about where we're going, what we're doing. We have the CISA matrix plan, the budget presented by Brent to us every year. We get the question, we go through the thing line by line, and 90% of it doesn't change, because much of it is driven legislatively and not by our ability to make changes or to plan for that, because we have levy guidelines and such. So I'm still struggling, so what do you think needs to be aligned? Can you give me a specific example? You laid the question to us, you're the one that wants to make the change, so you tell me where we're failing to align.
Well, right now, strategic plan only has for 1 year out. I'd like to see what it has, quite honestly, for the following years thereafter in the budgeting process. You have to be looking forthcoming, not just 1 year out.
How do we budget with the change of our
There's gonna be floating items, but potentially, let's just talk about it right now. The ceiling potentially with the students, that will affect the budget. If we so choose to have a cap on our student enrollment, or our student size, class sizes, that is a strategic plan that you can work towards, and it can be budgeted, and they would align. There is others that have other tips.
Okay, so, just, now I do follow your logic. Just for that to say that I'm cautious about going down that road, because you hog-tie future ability to change and make it more difficult for future boards to have less, you create less flexibility going forward, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
You could look at it that way, otherwise you could say we have a clear path towards a destination, and if it needs to change, it will change. If enrollment changes, you will have to change anyways.
But if I'm getting the motion correct too, we're gonna also discuss this within each committee.
Your committee, yes.
Right.
I understand
You'll have
that.
the
I
ability
just want
to
to make
shape
sure I understand, because I'm not going to be in his committee
That's what I was
discussing
gonna
that.
say, and that's my question to you, Kevin, you're the personnel committee.
Okay.
So what they in the finance committee are gonna discuss, they have nothing what you want on there whatsoever.
Okay. Do we want to table this and come back and have a rediscussion as a full board on the scope and the title of our committees?
Enough of that table, we're still in discussion.
Okay.
And the motion passes or fails, or the motion gets rescinded. Tabling it leaves a motion unfinished on the floor. You can have to come back and address that at some point.
One of the reasons we went to 2 board meetings in the summer for the budget is because the board wanted full discussion about the budget. So that's not a committee, that's why we have another full board meeting about the budget, is for every single board member to be engaged in that budget discussion. So that was one thing that the board did years ago, is they went to a full budget meeting, so every single board member, not just the finance committee, is a part of the budget discussion. So that's why we have that special meeting you see in future agenda items, just for budget.
Yeah.
Mike.
And I don't wanna be sitting with Brent doing the budget, or Ann, or any of the staff. How many meetings would I have to attend? That's why we hired our administration.
Or maybe it's at a higher level, Mike. We can identify what that level needs to be. So just, that's why it's coming to the table and we're discussing.
And what I'm hearing is there could be a discussion, but you realize that you're not on that committee of that, so you might not get anywhere, or they might come back and say we're keeping it just as is.
But then what I'm relying then on is that committee is saying, we're comfortable the way things are.
Right?
And as a respectable board member, I'm going to respect that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So that's kind of the form that we're trying to identify here.
So you leave it up to each committee?
Yep.
Okay.
The biggest failure of committees and coming to the boards meeting is people that haven't read packets, haven't opened the hyperlinks, haven't looked at all the information, and then having intelligent discussion about things they want to change and bring forward. That's been rampant ever since I've been on this board, so. That, if anything, needs to change. We have concern about the budget or alignment, understand where we're going, ask the question before.
Okay, so we do have a motion, we do have a second. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
We,
Do you want to do a roll call?
yeah, please.
Bauman,
Yes.
Lewis,
No.
Gorman,
Yes.
Kaiser,
No.
Maple,
Yes.
Thiel,
Yes.
Tomcheck,
No.
Zebro,
Yes. 5-3, motion passes. Moving on to item 9, curriculum and status committee meeting report.
Great. Good evening, everybody. We met for our final meeting of the year on May 7th. And there are 2 items, or really 1 item, that we are bringing forth as a recommendation on a textbook recommendation for high school biology. And it's the Miller and Levine. Lori Nansky is the science teacher, and her committee looked at college board policy in terms of the recommendation of this book. It is aligned with the new science standards, and our curriculum committee recommended it come to the full board for adoption for the 18-19 school year.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Motion was Cory and second by Mark. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Great, thank you. The rest of the meeting, we just got an update on our universal screening tool, which you will probably see come to the board if a recommendation is made in June. And that universal screening tool we're looking at right now is a choice between the Fast Bridge tool and the STAR.